back to Check Out the Stat by your girl, Treasure Wilson, aka Stat Baby. So today we have a very special guest. We're going to talk NFL draft, the Knicks, and what's going on with all this rapper beef. But first, I've got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. With Underdog, you can earn money by making picks on your favorite players. You can try the app in California, Texas, and New York, and the list goes on. If you want to play along, go download Underdog Fantasy, use code STAT. They'll match your deposit up to $100, and you'll get a special pick. So let's do our Underdog Fantasy picks of the day. Tomorrow, Miami will play Boston. Y'all know how I feel about this series, and it's getting real exciting to me. Jason Tatum is at 4.5 first quarter points. That's what Underdog Fantasy has him at. If Celtics want any chance of winning, they're going to have to put up those points early on. So I'm going to go higher for the Celtics' sake, because if not, I would be a little worried. Next, Underdog Fantasy has Bam at 19.5 points. I'm actually going to put him lower. And then Tyler Hero is at 20.5 points. I'm going to put Tyler higher. I think that this is his time. This is his opportunity. I'm hoping he puts up more points if Miami also wants a chance. But, we have other shooters who can help him if he kind of lacks in that department. But we'll see. I have him higher for that. So make sure you download the Underdog Fantasy app and you can make your picks too. So today, we don't have a superwoman. I guess y'all can call him Superman. We are joined by a very special guest, Nick, also known as Ayooo Nick.
In the building. Finally.
Yes. So people don't know. I was very excited to interview Nick because I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, dang, we always shout him out and it is what it is. We're always talking about him. You're having your cameos and people need to know who you are. You do a lot of the magic behind the scenes and a lot of magic for your own stuff as well. But first, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Stat. I appreciate getting the late call up. I'm always ready. I'm ready to go. Actually, we were talking about us two doing this for a while now. When you brought it up, I was like, yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be fine. I appreciate it. You reaching out. And and now we're here.
Of course.
A couple of things fell out of place, but I'm here to clean up.
And that's okay, because guys, this was supposed to happen. Like, just know I've been wanting to do this, so I'm glad you could join me. Glad you're here, and glad we got you on the main screen at the desk.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first I want to start off with your background, right? So where are you originally from?
Queens, New York, Astoria, or as Cam and Mace called it, Little Harlem.
Yeah. Okay. So when is the last time you were back in New York? Do you travel there frequently, or do you feel like you're on the West Coast more?
It's unbelievable how much I love it out here.
Okay.
Like, legit. I'm actually going back in 3 weeks. Okay. I'll be back home. But I've been out in Vegas now for a year and a half.
Okay.
And I've been back to New York. This will be my 5th time. But I probably go like every 4 months, I would say. But I'm just so busy out here, and I just turned 33. I know this might sound weird to people, but I feel like I became a man out here. Yeah, like I got my own. I got my own responsibilities, and like I moved out my parents' crib when I was 29, right? Yep. And I got a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, and the one room I turned into a studio. So I always said, like, I was just starting to make some money on my show and my podcast, and I was like, yo, I'll just treat that as my roommate. Rent in New York is out of control. Anyone that knows about it, it's crazy. So long story short, I was starting to do that, and like the podcast was generating enough money where I'm like, yo, the show is my roommate.
Yeah.
And then I just needed to like get out the crib. But even then, the reason why I'm bringing this up and I'm smiling now is because my mom is actually in town this week, which is ironically enough. But she was still doing my laundry at 30. She was still doing my laundry because I worked. So my dad got a coffee truck in New York City. I got this tattoo for him, 49th and Park Ave. He's been there for 30 years, right? And Spider-Man's from Queens originally. And I would still work with my dad, but I was living out the house.
Right.
And I would give him my laundry on Fridays, and then Mondays he'd bring it back.
It's a little routine. So for the people who live in New York, what's the name of your dad's coffee shop so they can visit? I
appreciate that. It's Tony's Place, 49th and Park Avenue. He's been there legit 30 years. Okay, yeah. And it's cool. It's like the ultimate hustle.
Yeah, that's dope. Make sure you guys support the family. That's what's like, you got to shout out the name of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you end up in Vegas? If you guys don't know, we do film the show in Vegas. Nick is here. How did that happen?
So how I moved to Vegas?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's also a great story of how I ran into Cam, which is also
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Okay. So I was a part of Blue Wire, the podcast network, and they had the studio here in Vegas. And I've been coming to Vegas since I was like 21, but doing like dumb shit with my friends, bachelor parties, guys trips and all that. And I would just tell my boys, I'm like, yo, there's something here for me. And they'd be like, come on, man, it's 4 a.m, you're hammered. Like, there ain't nothing here for you, right? And then this partnership with the Wind started with Blue Wire, and they opened up the studio. And they were like, yo, we might need people to move out here. And I was like, say less. Like, let me know what I'm making so I'm not on Las Vegas Boulevard asking people for money.
Right.
But I was just like, yo, just let me know, right? I'm not married, no kids, didn't have a girlfriend. Really, this is my first real job.
Yeah.
Like, I worked for my dad my whole life, so I never really had 1099s and all that shit. You know what I mean?
Like,
so,
this is different.
Or like a real boss. My boss was my dad growing up. Like, I've worked there since I was 14 in the summers and shit. So anyway, one thing led to another, and I came out here on my own. Just like my birthday's in March, right? And I'm a big UFC fan. So I told one of my boys, I was like, yo, let's go to Vegas. There's a UFC pay-per-view. It was like right when shit started to open up with COVID. So like early 2022. Because in New York, it was a nightmare. I know you didn't experience this in Florida.
Did not.
You guys didn't even know what COVID was.
Yeah.
So came out here and I met everyone in the studio. And they were like, yo, your energy and your vibe is like what we need out here. And I get along with everybody. And one thing led to another. August 16th, I always talk about it on the show. I had no idea I was moving to Vegas. September 1st, I was here.
Yeah, so that's crazy. And it's funny because everybody's story here just kind of sounds like something that just kind of came out of nowhere, which is what makes everything about this dynamic super, super dope. And then I think when people see you on the show, people just assume that we've all known each other. Like this was just like the perfect setup. Kind of want you to explain. So how did you run into Cam or Mace? I don't know which one it was first. How did that interaction go?
It was Cam I ran into first, and shouts to Larry. Our guy Larry, who's been on It Is What It Is a lot. I always show him love. All by accident, Stat.
Yeah.
Like legit. I know you've told your story too about how like, yo, this kind of happened by accident for me too. So that's why I think we kind of get along. We got that same vibe and how like we got connected. But basically what happened was I went food shopping. I'll never forget. It was like a Tuesday, right? I'm supposed to be at the studio at like 5 o'clock. But I get to eat at the Wynn here for free, right? Being an employee. So I come in at like 1:30, 2 o'clock because I didn't want to cook my food. I was like, I'm not going to start cooking. Lazy, yeah, super lazy, right? So I come in and Larry's in the control room. Cam is standing out here. Mind you, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. Like Dipset was my shit. Cam and used to make music with this guy, Vado, who was in his crew. Like they defined 3 summers for my group of friends. So I go, I see Brian and I'm like, hey man, he's like, why are you here now? I'm like, bro, I told him what I told you, right? I'm too lazy, I don't want to cook. Yeah. So Cam has his back to the window and he's looking out and he's on the phone. So Larry goes, hey man, I'm Larry. I was like, oh, Nick, nice to meet you. Cam turns around, I go, yo, is that fucking Cameron? And Larry is just like, I was like, yo, that's Cam, right?
Yeah.
From Dipset, I'm not bugging. He's like, yeah, bro. He's like, you know Killer? I was like, of course, bro. I was like, yo, I'm from Queens. New York, this and that. He's like, yo, hold on, Killer gotta talk to you. So then I came out here. I was like, yo, Cam, I'm a big fan. I was like, what's crazy, and it is true, the wildest shit is like, I was listening to It Is What It Is.
I'm dead.
Because I saw the clips going viral and I was like, damn, yo, where they been at? Like Cam and Mace, you know? And one thing led to another. We exchanged information and then the rest is history, as they say. A lot is being left out because I don't want to take up too much time, but all by accident, right place, right time, for real.
Yeah. That is like very true. Right place at the right time. And that's really for all of us. Like the whole, like even them, you know, just rekindling their relationship. And then like me being in school, happening to be in Miami when I first met them. Like you being here, like it's crazy how things work out. And it's like we're going through the motions, but I don't even feel like we have the opportunity a lot to reflect on how far we've come and what has happened.
For sure. I have a question for you. Yeah. And sorry, like, because I host my own show.
The interview?
Yo, so, excuse me. Since I do my own show too, Veterans Minimum, cheap plug.
Yeah.
But I like to ask people questions too, right? So I've never asked you this.
Yeah.
The first time I met you, I told you we were in the green room. I was like, yo, you're like the most valuable person on this show just for the way you construct everything and like the order and whatnot. But did you know who they were before you met
Everybody
them?
asked me that. So I knew who they were, but I don't think everything clicked to me because I had their songs in my playlist. Like I knew who Cameron was and I knew who Mace was, But to me, the whole thing still wasn't making, like, that's like seeing like a chef be like not a business owner. That's a bad analogy, but seeing like a chef be like a lifeguard, like two different worlds. So it was like, yes, I know this is a sports show, but like I hadn't seen it being done with rappers. And it was like the whole turnaround was like, I know this is an opportunity. I don't really know where it's going, but like I'm down for the ride, and everybody has kind of seen that. So for me, it's been a really dope journey. But I knew who they were. I had their music in my playlist. Like people even ask me all the time, like, you know, like what songs do you like from them? Like what do you listen to? Like I do like Horse and Carriage. I do like Suck It or Not. Like I do, I do like a lot of their songs. I don't talk about it often because it's like at the end of the day, they're my bosses, and it's like we're chilling and cool. But like obviously they make great music, super dope people to work around, and like they've created the culture. So it's like people think I'm just because I'm young, yes, y'all, there's a lot of stuff that I just don't happen to know, but I'm not an airhead.
Oh, nah. And you're also, I've told you this too. I was like, yo, you're getting a life master's degree with them too, because they've been around, like they always talk about how they've had the camera on them for 30 years, right? So, and you being in the middle of that and just free game that they give. And the amount of times when they tell their stories and like I'll go home and I'm editing, I'm like, damn, these are bars for real. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy shit.
Stuff that school cannot teach you. I want to ask you this because you've had a lot of like cameos on It Is What It Is. Do you remember the first episode where you had kind of like your shout out? Curious.
Wow.
Or at least the most memorable one that you have, because you get a lot of shout outs, Nick.
I think so I don't think I was on camera for it.
Okay.
But I remember early on, Mace was like, Nick's just trying to keep his job, killer.
Yeah.
And Cam was like, yo, Nick, you know you good, man. You know you don't gotta worry about that. Cause it was something that like they gave a prediction and I was like backing Cam. And Mace was like, no, that's not what happened. One of those, you know how like they get into it playfully?
Yeah.
So I would say that was the first time that like I kind of made a cameo on the show. Yeah. And then every other time now, like often I'm not mic'd up in there because I don't know when I'm gonna be called.
Yeah.
And I'll just do like Cam will be like, yo, I'm paying you extra, Nick, to find this clip. Right. I'll be like, if you pay, I'll find the clip, that. Bro. Yeah. I'll find the clip.
Yeah, no, that's so funny. And then how do you feel about being called Ayooo, Nick? Because I'm not gonna lie, you do have a lot of pause-worthy moments too, and it'd be real slick, and we play it off, and even down to the picture on your Instagram, like we make fun of you for it. How do you feel about being called Ayooo, Nick, and being picked on?
Yo, I got fried by Cam for my birthday, because like, so I do jujitsu, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, you're wearing like compression shirts and all that because like you could get your hands broken getting stuck in shirts and all that. Yeah. You know, I'm going super nerdy with it, but you know, you're barefoot, right? Like on the mats. So Cam just cooked me. He sent me a text and he's like, yo, I can't wish you happy birthday in that. Because they bought me like a cake and my one friend was kissing me and shit. And he's like, yo, they barefoot over there. Ayooo, Nick, I think it's like a New York thing. Yeah. Like you're Ayooo, you know? So it kind of just like became a thing. Like my Instagram bio is Ayooo Nick from It Is What It Is. Right. So that's the Nick that Ayooo Nick is me. Yeah. Regular Nick is underdog Nick.
Got it. It's like Hannah Montana moment. I always use that reference. Okay, so a couple more questions before we go to break. So you have your own show, Veterans Minimum. You want to discuss that, kind of how that came about and what you talk about on your show? Yeah,
Veterans Minimum. It's been around since 2015. I started it with a bunch of my buddies back home, and through the years, you know, life kind of gets in the way, right? People getting married, people having kids, people just don't want to do it anymore. And excuse me, it was like the only thing I ever wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Like when I first started this, I was like, yo, I just want to be able to tell people I create content for a living.
Yeah.
So like everything I do now, I think it's content, you know, working with you guys, content creating, my stuff, content creating. So it's basically just it's a sports show with a lot of sports betting in it. You know, like looking at sports from a betting perspective, kind of like what you guys do with the underdog stuff. And, you know, just like you look at sports when it's from a betting standpoint, completely different. Because I could tell you like, who's going to win, the Celtics or the Heat, right? For example. Most people would probably say the Celtics, right? But are they going to win by more than 15 points?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's where like the conversations become really interesting. So I like to say Veterans Minimum is the best sports betting vibe on the internet. Because when people meet me, they're like, yo, you're kind of a vibe too. And the show's very playful. We know our stuff. We come prepared. Yeah. But I don't take myself seriously at all. That's why I like having fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun. Like when it's too... I'm personally not paying attention. Like, I want to see your personality, but I also want to hear, like spurts of like real facts and stuff like that. And I think it's good to have both of those. And that's what you do. And that's what we do. And I think that's why it works. So it's dope concept to have. Okay. So I got to ask, based on your journey and what you kind of explained, it seemed like you started things kind of later in life. What's your advice to people who kind of want to get into this space and start creating content? Because it's not an easy thing to do. So what advice would you give people who are interested?
Yeah, my advice, I would say, a lot of it is cliche, right? But like growing up, I was always a sports betting dude in my friend group. Like even from a young age, like the parents would be like, who do you like in the Monday Night Football game? Are they going to cover the -6 or whatever it might be? So sports were my whole life, right? Growing up playing sports. And I just always wanted to do something in sports, right? But like every kid wants to be a pro athlete. And then I realized I'm a 5'10" white dude. Yeah. It's like the ceiling on what I could do is kind of limited, right? So I just always wanted to like do something in sports, and I saw where things were going in just like life, right? Like social media became this massive thing, and I have a very interesting relationship with it because I love it. Like it's given me every opportunity I have. As far as like advice for young content creators or just anyone in general, you got to start it, and there's going to be times where you got to weather the storm. Because it's not always exciting to record.
Right.
It's not always exciting to gather the notes and then go and do it. But you got to just weather the storm, and you got to like cover things that you really care about, because then it doesn't become stale.
Right.
And I think the coolest thing about sports is it's a topic that every year you get new storylines.
Right.
So what you thought about the Miami Heat, shout out to you, I know that's your squad, but like what you thought about them 3 years ago is definitely not what you think about them now, because there's new players. Other players have left.
Right.
Guys have gotten older. So it's a cool field to be in because it's never repetitive stuff. Like there's a lot of content out there that is kind of just, if you listen to one show, you've kind of listened to them all, I like to say. Where this one, or just in general, the advice that I give is, this is actually the best advice. Ready?
Okay.
Describe your show in one sentence.
Okay.
Would you?
Empowerment. Women empowerment, and that's all I can
highlighting women's sports.
There we go.
Yeah, that's how I would describe your show, with like the breakdown. And like with me, I tell people it's the best sports betting vibe on the internet.
Said, go.
Interviewing the interviewer. Yeah, I know. I tend to do that. I apologize. But yeah, like that's kind of the things, because if you think you're just gonna press record and shoot the shit with your friends, that ain't gonna work.
It does not happen. It does not work like that. And I don't even think people understand the amount of work that goes in behind everything, y'all. Like, and I read the comments because I love you guys' criticism and like giving me advice and stuff what to do. And I'm sure like Nick gets a lot of comments and stuff as well. Writing a show, directing a show, content creation, making guests, it is not easy. It is not easy at all. And like he kind of said, weathering the storm, there's going to be days where you're like, dang, like, is this something that I want to do? But like when it's your passion, you find a way to get the content done. It's never going to be an easy task. It's not like you can, like you just said, pick up a camera and get up here and start talking and have no structure. You got to have some sort of plan. But we all do it because we love it.
Yeah, for sure. And also just to put a bow on that part of the conversation, like I have so many people be like, yo, I could do what you do. I'm like, yeah.
Go for it.
Go ahead. I am not going to stop you. I think there's enough for everybody to be successful and to eat in this field and just content creating in general. But I'm like, yeah, bro, go ahead. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not possible or anything. But like, again, weathering the storm.
Yeah.
It's a big reality check when, like the first episode I ever did, 9 people listened to it.
Yeah.
So like.
Shout out to the 9 people.
Shout out to the 9 people, man. But, like some people get discouraged because you might think you're popping. And also like being in this field too, I get a lot of influencers or even athletes that start shows.
Yeah.
And then I'll get their analytics. Yeah. And I'll be like, oh, this is going to hurt their ego. Yeah. Because it's hard. Like you got to build a relationship with your audience. And it's cool if like, Mason Cam, for example, they have the hip hop fans all these years. And now they're like, oh shit, I'm also a sports fan. Bam, there's your correlation. There's your new field that you're in. Yeah. So I think all that stuff is really important. And the cliches become cliches because they're true.
Definitely. Super, super good advice. But we're going to go to break. When we return, we'll talk about the Knicks, discuss some things from the NFL draft, and all this rapper beef. Don't go anywhere.
She called this thing about toxic. 4 years and counting. Got you feeling like an option. Maybe I'm my own problem, babe. She tired of hearing I don't know. What's stubborn in me won't fall. Dealing with this thing called trust. But she really thinking about it. She wanna be free. Why am I here this woman wanna be free? Hell, I don't wanna see her walk away. I wish somebody told me the rules. Disagreements let her win, and it's cool. Even when I'm right, this ain't about you.
Welcome back. Now we're going to get into Ain't No Way, where we talk about the crazy things that have happened this week. So ain't no way all these rappers are beefing. We are joined back with special guest Nick. So the beef is between J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick. It really started when Kendrick was on Metro's album. And Kendrick basically said, ain't no big three. It's just big me, basically canceling out J. Cole and Drake. I just got to ask you in general, how do you feel about the beef? And in your personal opinion, who do you think is the best rapper?
This is so like, all right, I'm going to give you, obviously from my perspective, right? I've seen all of them many times perform in person. So it's been dope. I went to OVO Fest when what's his name? Drake was beefing with Meek and he had all the memes.
Yeah.
I was there for that. And J. Cole actually closed out the day one of OVO. So I think Good Kid, Mad City is my favorite project of any of theirs.
Okay.
Right? So like the album, I think that's my favorite album of any of theirs. Like I felt like that should have won the Grammy.
Yeah.
So that's the answer there, right?
Okay.
I think the body of work, it's undeniably Drake.
Okay.
He's up there, I think, like he's on a Mount Rushmore of just like musicians, I think.
Okay.
And then J. Cole is my personal favorite.
Okay.
I kind of like the storytelling rapper.
You know what it sounds like to me?
What is it?
You're spinning.
I'm spinning? Damn, Isaiah did the same thing. Isaiah did the same thing.
So it's like, because you complimented all three. That's not what I asked you, Nick.
Damn.
Who do you think is the better rapper? Just when we're talking about words.
Words? I'd have to go with Cole.
Okay. And then the most popular.
Oh, most popular, I think, is Drake, without a doubt. Yeah.
Okay. That one's hard for me because truthfully, before any of this beef stuff started happening, my favorite rapper in the entire world is Mr. Kendrick Lamar. I have never missed one of his concerts when he was on tour. I think Drake's music is phenomenal. I was backstage at his tour. I never seen J. Cole live. I like a lot of his older songs. But when it comes down to lyrics, something about Kendrick, you feel it. If you just sit in a room and you're listening, like even one of my all-time favorite songs is All Right. Nigga, we gon' be all right. What you want, you a house, you a car, 40 acres and a mule. Like everything Kendrick says, he spits To Pimp a Butterfly, Good Kid, Mad City, even like his Untitled series. Like if you really look through, and I understand it, Kendrick doesn't have the type of music that everybody can just sit and listen to and bump just like, yeah, let me just put on a speaker and play some Kendrick Lamar. That's not happening.
Right.
And I get that. But I was on the Kendrick wave earlier on, so I can definitely like approve and like appreciate his lyrics and music, because before it was just about, let me just listen to what's popping, what's cool. Like I was listening to the lyrics, studying the lyrics, and I was like if you sit and listen to Kendrick Lamar, it's deeper than you would ever think. Like I started watching like breakdowns of his music, and like I'm saying, I got deep into it. Not everybody's gonna do that. They're gonna hear something and be like, why would I listen to this? Like even he has a song that's like pimp, pimp, hooray. Like people are like not gonna just sit down and listen to that. But I think Kendrick is the best rapper. I think his lyrics are amazing. This is not a dig at J. Cole. I think he's great as well, but that's also
that's a good point that you just made there.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do this in music. We do this honestly with everything, especially in sports. Just because you praise one dude don't mean you're shitting on the other.
Exactly.
And so many times it's like, oh, who's your favorite? Who's the best quarterback?
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's Pat Mahomes, but I also like Lamar, but I think Pat is better. It doesn't mean that Lamar sucks or that you don't fuck with Lamar.
Yeah.
It's just because you praise one doesn't mean that the other one is not good.
Right. So what's caused a lot of controversy, I guess you could say, is basically J. Cole apologizing.
That was soft. That was that Gen Z stuff that makes
you didn't like it.
Yeah, I did not like that at all. But to be fair, and I know I'm spinning right now, his album is Might Delete Later.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that plays into it. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah. So you're not a fan of that.
Because that's what, like, hip hop was dope when people had beef, right? Like, I remember 50 Cent named his album Curtis because of Cam. Mm-hmm. So, like, that was when hip hop was dope growing up. Like, yo, are you down with G Unit, or are you down with like Terror Squad and all that? Yeah. Especially growing up in New York. And obviously it was always like Jay-Z or Nas.
Yeah.
Biggie and Tupac and all that. That's when like hip hop was dope and competitive too, because it's like anything, right? Like an athlete. So I'm a big soccer fan, right? Mm-hmm. So like there's always Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. It's like, who's better? Just because you like one doesn't mean the other one sucks. Right. But also in their generation, they elevated one another because that's who they were chasing.
Right.
So it's like the same thing with like hip hop and music too, where that competitive nature, it's only going to elevate everybody else. Right. So I didn't like that he did that. That was soft. Cole, come on. We expect greatness.
I'm always different. Like, I don't know. Like, he said it wasn't right with his spirit. So I'm like, he doesn't care what anybody else has to say. If he felt like, look, I got to take back what I said. Like, you're a great rapper. Cool. Now, for the purpose of it being rap beef, that's the point. You guys are not supposed to get along. You guys are supposed to disagree. And even now, Metro even posted like, pick a side. That was the whole thing. Like, we don't trust you. So it's like, you are supposed to pick sides. Like, and that's fine. Like you said, it's okay if you don't like the other person, but you're supposed to be able to say like, hey, I like this person's body of music better than this. And that's okay. Like, just because I feel that way doesn't mean that you have to feel that way. But J. Cole basically apologizing, I don't mind it too much. I definitely could see why people think it's soft, because it is. But I mean, like, hey man, if it's not right to your spirit, that's not something that you got to communicate with me. You got to communicate that with yourself. So I can't be mad at that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I got to ask, how do you feel about just all these rappers in general beefing with Drake? Does it seem like a publicity stunt to you, or does it seem legit? Because I know Rick Ross came back now calling Drake BBL Drake. And then there's just a lot of rumors that like Drake and Future beefing over women, stuff like just a lot of different stuff in the air. Can't confirm or deny anything. I do not know Drake personally, but just got to make that disclaimer. People like, oh, step. No, I'm telling y'all now. How do you feel about all this discourse coming to Drake directly?
I think Cam and Mace have said it in the past too, how like it's always money and women that kind of get in the way of like beefs, right? Like at the core of any beef, it's usually over one or the other.
Yeah.
As far as people attacking Drake, I think, they're attacking him because it's going to generate clicks. Mm-hmm. He's the guy in the industry. Yeah. And you're gonna go for the king, right? But you best not miss, because Drake also, he has such a loyal fan base and a big fan base that for the most part he could kind of squash most of the people just from like, he could put out something and it'll get 1 billion streams and then everyone forgets about everything else.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, at the end of the day, Drake is gonna be on top regardless. He's made music that even if you're older, you like him. Even if you're younger, you like him. Music for everybody, not just in a certain, realm. And, people are going to come for the throne. I'm not going to say he's the king because that's a real strong word, but he just might be. So, okay. Now we're going to get into Tell Me What's Up, because the stats wouldn't be the stats without questions and answers from you. So 2 questions, one about the Knicks, one about the draft. First question, just in general, do you believe that the Knicks can win the series versus the Sixers?
The series, yeah, I think so for sure. Okay. I know it's 2-1 at the time that we're recording. Mm-hmm. Both teams have only won at home, and I think it's going to be one of those series where it'll go 7, and every team is going to win at home. The Garden is a wild place to play in. You ever been to the Garden?
Mm-mm. Crazy, right?
Dude, when I tell you, like, the Garden is such a special place that when the Knicks are good, there's like a different aura to it. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a New Yorker and you've been to a Knicks game, especially in the playoffs, like, we're so delusional also. We think that like, Brunson's been amazing, but just in general, like Jeremy Lin was a thing, right? Yeah. We go on a 6-game winning streak, we're burning things, we're out of excitement. But I think that the Knicks, it's the one city that deserves a championship the most. Like the Knicks winning an NBA title would be like the biggest championship anyone could win.
Right.
And as far as this series, I think that they match up well with the Sixers. And also, I just think that Brunson and those guys, they play really well at home. And it's going to be the ultimate, every team's going to win at home. And that's how I think the series plays out. Because it's been two completely different games. And I know game 2, they won at the buzzer. Philly should have really won that game.
Yeah.
But you also get that from the aura of the Garden, where a steal becomes so amplified that it feels like it's a 9-possession swing.
Yeah. Okay. And just so y'all know, Nick is a Knicks fan. Not saying that his answer is biased, but just have to make sure I preface that. Me, I'm not really sure. This is an interesting series to me because even with Embiid, I think Embiid is getting angry. If he's going to drop 50 points, in multiple games, and you would hope that the Knicks can stop that, I think he is one of those players that is becoming and looking more and more unstoppable. I mean, I think he's saying, we want to win. We want to move on to the next round. And if he continues to play in that way, especially alongside Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, I think that the Sixers are putting up a good little fight, especially if they're going to keep having officiating issues in between. I think that's being looked at, under a microscope right now. I'm not sure. That's my answer. I'm not sure. But good luck to you. Good luck to my team. We will see what happens. And then last question. This is more kind of an opinionated question. As we know, Caleb Williams was picked first overall by the Chicago Bears. Just in general, even aside from his play, do you think that Caleb Williams will be a likable quarterback?
I think the thing that's happened with college, with the NIL, dudes are coming into the league loaded.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was making $10 million a year at USC. So they're coming in there with a different attitude. And I think he's great. Like the football talent, all the off the field stuff, I feel like people just be reaching sometimes. Like, dude, I've lost games and I've went and cried to my mom. Like it's like, yo, I'd be mad emotional when I lose because I care. Like to me, that shows me that he cares, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that he's a hell of a talent. And he made this one throw one time stat. I'll never forget it. It was not this past season, the season before. He threw a ball like 40 yards, moving to his left, and he's a right-handed quarterback. And I swear the ball got like this high off the ground. It wasn't like an air ball, like a moon ball, just a bomb. It was a fucking laser.
Yeah.
That shit was crazy. And I think he's that dude for sure. In Chicago, they've also done a good job of surrounding him with a lot of weapons. They drafted Rome Dunze from Washington also. He got Keenan, he got DJ Moore. It's like he's stepping into a really good situation, so they're doing right by him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely in a good situation, and he has undeniable talent. Everybody is looking at the off the field stuff, but it doesn't matter because as long as he performs on the field, that's what y'all should be worried about because at the end of the day, he is y'all's quarterback. Move Justin Fields to give him the space that he needed. So I am excited for him. Y'all can call him a Gen Z quarterback all you want. He's still a young kid who is getting to accomplish his dream, and I think that's the dopest thing ever. Shout out to Caleb Williams. Congratulations on being picked first overall. That's super dope accomplishment. And even if he does it with his nails painted, y'all know I don't care. Y'all really shouldn't care either. But it'll take y'all some time to get to that point, which is okay. But that is all the time that we have for today. Nick, thanks for joining me today. Would you like to shout out your socials, your show, so people can follow you? And
Hell yeah. Thank you, Stat. I appreciate it. I was looking forward to this. At Nick Day10 on all social media outlets. At Veterans Minimum is the name of the #1 sports betting vibe on the internet. Stat, you're the truth. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks again. And thank you all for hanging out with me and checking out the stats. I'll see y'all next week.